Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And before I get started, if you are in the Staten Island, New York area, I will be at Free Comic Book Day signing at JHU Comic Books, so go check us out over there. It's going to be 1 to 3 o'clock, so very excited about that one. Hopefully we'll have some sort of video for Free Comic Book Day as well. And also I do have a Kickstarter going on for my superhero book. It's about a high school girl. Father left her to become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her, and then she inherits his abilities. Now let's jump into this week's books, and of course at the end of the video we do talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured in next week's episode, and give this video a thumbs up, that way we can get even more people to see this video and this series. Now let's jump in. I had a pretty average size haul with 10 books, and number 10 for me is Detective Comics Annual Issue 1. This just felt like everything I don't particularly love about annuals and the style of annuals. I like the one-shots that usually progress the story in some way, teases the big events of what's going to happen to this series, or kind of has a more whimsical one-shot. For me, this kind of was a little bit more bogged down. It was a very British detective story, which makes sense because Al Ewing is writing it. But that's also what I found interesting too, is that was a completely different writer than would be crafting the structure of what's going on with Detective Comics next. So that was interesting, again, to get Al Ewing's point of view here. And I think it really just depends on how much you love British storytelling. That's going to be a big part of it. And then the last story was like a fun tale of a middle school kid who teams up with Batman. Like, that was fun enough. I almost kind of wish that was the main story and the detective British Sherlock Holmes style story was the secondary story. But for me, I feel like this was more skippable as an annual and just kind of getting into the regular series instead. Also, DC didn't really have a lot of books out this week, so this was the very few books that DC had. Speaking of, sadly, number 9 is the other DC book I got this week, and that is The Question All Along the Watchtower, issue 6. This is in a different field. I like this issue. I do think that maybe this miniseries was one issue too long, especially because we solved the mystery pretty quickly in the series. We found out Cyborg Superman was behind it in like issue 3, I want to say, and the rest was the aftermath. I feel like some of this aftermath stuff could have been in the last issue, but I like this as a question story. I enjoyed Renee. We saw the other question as well, and just seeing where her story is going to be for the future. And mostly it means we're going to have to read more Justice League Unlimited, and that's the part that left me a little sour. I haven't been loving Justice League Unlimited, so it's just like, oh, okay, like I kind of wish we were going to see Renee in a different spot. But I thought it was a pretty solid book. I like this miniseries, and I thought the artwork was really good. And if you enjoy the overall DC universe, surprisingly, this is actually one to pick up and to see how the pieces are going to play out in, again, their flagship book like Justice League Unlimited. So giving that one 3 stars, and that's number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Power Rangers Prime issue 6. This is another one, not bad at all. I actually thought this was a pretty decent issue where we get to learn about one of the Rangers and his history, which I feel like is pretty important to this team, because that's kind of been the harder part of Power Rangers Prime, is that they're all mostly new characters, so you gotta fall in love with them as much as you already fell in love with the characters you grew up with, like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I thought this issue was a good job at trying us to feel connected. Was the story itself like, oh my god, I love this character? No, and I think that's why this is a little lower, but I think this is a necessary story to learn more about the cast and to just, again, make it a little bit more character driven. And the artwork is really great. I like the anime style, I like the world building through the artwork, so enjoyed that. Giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is The Seasons issue 4. This issue I thought was a little slower than the previous, and that's mostly because our POV character is not really in it. It focuses a little bit more on her sister and her connection to the carnival, but even so, I didn't really get the attitudes of her sister enough to say this warranted a summer issue, which is her sister's name. But I like the vibe. I liked obviously learning more about the carnival. I just don't think this was as strong as those previous issues, especially the last issue, which was a really emotional roller coaster between our main character and her other sister. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is The Slasher's Apprentice, issue 1. If you are a slasher fan, a horror fan, I recommend this one. It is putting that genre on its head as we get to see this person have to deal with a slasher in childhood, dealt with that PTSD, makes a slasher podcast, and then as the book goes on, you see some cliches on purpose of slasher stories, and we lead to the end of what the title is, The Slasher's Apprentice. This person who has seen their family die actually wants to become part of the slasher's team. And I thought that was an interesting angle. And again, it's a twist on a genre that has so many twists and is kind of born on metatextual storytelling. So it's cool to see something different from the slasher story. But I'm also curious to see that character who is the final girl and usually the sympathetic character now become a villain, and how that's going to work out as the series goes on. And again, is this person going to continue to be the POV character, and what this kind of means for the full story? Because this does very much feel like a setup to obviously something bigger. So curious to see where it's going to go. Giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, issue 1. I thought this was pretty fun for people who love the Kitty Pryde Wolverine miniseries, like me. I think it's a very classic story, but also it is not a Days of Futures Past. It's not a Batman Hush, where it's a mainstream classic story. So it's an interesting take, because it very much feels like a continuation of that series. Obviously, with Chris Claremont also writing both volumes is an important element to that. And there's elements I like as a Kitty fan. I enjoy just seeing her growth and how Ogun made her a different type of character. I like seeing her dad. It's been a really long time since we've seen him, and he was a big part of that miniseries. But the thing I'm not sure of as we continue is that where does this go, right? Did this book ever need a sequel? Like, I don't know plot-wise if we needed one, but I'm enjoying the characters. And then also it's so interesting to see the version of Kitty Pryde. We see an exceptional, someone who's gone through decades and decades of being X-Men, and going back to this version of Kitty. It's just, it's an interesting, I'm not saying good or bad thing, it's just very interesting to kind of go back to that character, and we'll see if that's a necessary, nostalgia trip as the series goes on. But I'm interested in reading more. I think the art style very much fit the old book as well. So as a fan, I'm enjoying it, but I think you kind of have to be a hardcore fan of that series to enjoy this. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Snotgirl, issue 20. I wanted this to be a bit higher, but the thing that kind of took me away of this one is that as they try to describe what's going on in the background with the mystery of Caroline and her brother and this cult-like situation, it takes so long to tell that exposition that you don't really get to see Lottie as much. And the Lottie stuff is good. I really like her relationship with obviously Caroline. I like her relationship with her family and learning more about her family's K-pop roots I thought was cool, and there's some queer roots as well there. And that was the thing that really brought me into it again, and which is a very powerful part of the issue. It just kind of takes a little while to get there. And sadly, and understandably, this is not going to be a single issue run anymore. We are going to have to wait another year or a year or two to get a graphic novel, and there's going to be 2 graphic novels to finish this series, which is a whole commentary about the comic industry and how single issues, it's hard to make money in the comic industry with just single issues, especially when you're an indie book like this. So it makes sense logistically and for profit to make it a graphic novel, but it's still sad. I like this as a single issue series as well. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Feral, issue 12. I expected them to go into the pet shop, so that was interesting that we're still not there. But this issue does a really good job at making the point A to point B moment to kind of get to this store still really valuable as we get to see these characters, again, grow even further. We get to see the threat grow even further, and the interpersonal relationships of these cats just become a bigger part of the issue. And we even have a dog involved in this issue as well, and that's what moves the issue. It's a very character-driven issue that you almost forgive that you're not at the pet store just yet. So giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, this one's been skyrocketing to the top again, and that is Radiant Black, issue 33. It's become the book that I fell in love with in the beginning, and I'm so glad we're seeing that again, where we get to see Marshall obviously being Radiant Black, but also dealing with the circumstances of that big event and how people perceive him, especially his mom. We also do get the crossover between Radiant Black and Rogue Sun, which I was like, oh, we already saw this in Rogue Sun, do we need it? But the way they tackle Marshall's interpersonal problems and drama, I thought was really well done. And also you even get to see one of the other Radiant characters, and I think it's the Pink Radiant. I like that element too, and I enjoyed their relationship. So there's just a lot of fun moments that ground this series that makes Radiant Black so special. So giving that 4 stars, and that's number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is the topic of the video, and that is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 16. Gwen Stacy is a very popular Spider-Man villain, and it's not the one you expect. So spoiler alert, Gwen Stacy is Mysterio. What? That's crazy. That's not what I expected. I don't know if I even expected a Gwen Stacy origin story. We did know that something was up with Gwen, but I thought maybe it'd be Green Goblin related, that her father, who's obviously an important Spider-Man character as well, be part of this Mysterio cult, and then Gwen being part of that too, and also diving into more of the bigger picture of the Ultimate Universe, there being multiple timelines and Gwen having a perspective of that. I think my only nitpick, it gets a little convoluted as we have to deal with the Harry death of it all, and you're like, okay, there's another Green Goblin, Harry is still alive, what are they gonna do with this thread of, again, 2 versions of the same character? That might get a little complicated, but Spider-Man's known for clones, so maybe as a Spider-Man fan, most people are just gonna be like, yeah, I get it, I've seen Ben Reilly before. So I'm curious to see where that's gonna take, but I thought this was a really good origin story and a peek behind the curtain of this really unique spin on Gwen Stacy. Again, especially in the Ultimate Universe too, we've seen Gwen Stacy as other people, right? For some reason, Marvel, which I likes making Gwen Stacy things, because she is this character in the regular universe who died before she really had any characterization. So to see in a modern lens, to make her a little different, and in this version a little bit more villainous, I think is super interesting to the character. And again, previously in the Ultimate Universe, we've had Carnage for Gwen Stacy. She's going to be Gwenpool, and I think in the next couple of weeks in the regular universe. So it's just so interesting to see the many lives of Gwen Stacy, and this one in particular affecting our characters so much, but especially the universe so much, that's why I think it was such an interesting take on the character. But let me know in the comments below, what were your favorite books of the week? And last week's viewer's pick of the week was Minor Arcana, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.